And let's see the next one. It is input data save to mongoDB ?
Yes, this is a very interesting question. I'll show you why it proved out to be interesting for me in a while, but first I'll jump into a demo. So kindly, will you, Elina, stop sharing so I can start sharing? Good. So I'm hoping you see this. And now you see this. Yes, good. I built a very simple application that is a proof of concept that yes, you can access mongoDB data with Flutter. This is, let's increase the text size so you'll see something. I'll show you two files. I don't know if you ever read Dart or ever read Flutter. That doesn't really matter. It's so simple. I'll just show you first what it does. So let's see if it will actually start up. It's loading. The development experience is a lot faster with hot reloading, but the first initial load will always take a bit of time. Okay. This is basically the hello world, but with Mongo, more or less, and with stupid functionality. So it's reading a Mongo database, and when I click on plus, it'll pick a random name, and it'll throw it to the Mongo database, which will then display that. And we can also break this application very easily to see the classical thing that Flutter gives you a warning that if something is overflowing, oh, there we have it. Yes. But yes, you can insert data. So what does it actually do on the code side? Let's take a look. I'll increase the font size once again, so we'll have more. First off, let's look at what our dependencies are, because this is always the most beautiful thing I want to show compared to, let's say, React Native or JavaScript or whatever Cordova project. The only dependencies we have added here is to access Mongo. So Mongo Dart seems to be a fairly official and pretty much the only package. Then there's provider, which I've just thrown in as a simple way to keep my state out of my widgets. Have a short look at that. So quick read through to the code. We're importing the relevant packages. This is our main application, which is basically bundling our model, which is the name list model, where the random names come from, with my app. And the name list model is the one connecting to the database. This is a change notifier, which is provided by the provider package. Now, again, Flutter won't force you to any particular state management. It'll give you a myriad of options, including Redux or whatever. And this provider is just kind of one way. It's basically the observer pattern, a very simple observer pattern, from, general computer science. Mongo code is as on any platform. You connect to a mysterious IP address to a certain database. Then here we have connecting to collection. So we open the database connection. We select the collection we want to play with. So Mongo collections are kind of like document spaces in a way. And once we're connected, we update our state. So we know that we don't have -1 documents, we have 0 documents in the database. And notify listeners is something that will then say that, okay, this state has changed. Now everything that's interested in this state will re-render and update. And then we have one callback here, which is add name. So you give it a name and it'll just throw that name into a silly, simple Mongo document. And then the actual app. This is the standard way you do widgets in Flutter. So you have first a stateless widget, which has we're first in the app. So we have a stateless widget, which is building a material app. So you'll have the fancy green here. You can change that to maybe red, just for fun. And then it'll turn to my homepage. Let's actually see how quick the hot reload is. And then we're building the my homepage widget, which contains all the silly stuff we're doing. And this is a stateful widget. And actually the whole beef is here. We have a callback for a button which picks a random name and calls the model to add it. And then we have our basic scaffolding building of a basic view, which just has a text at the top and then a list. If we have any names, it has a list view like right now, and then it has no names available if there's no names available. That's all. If you have any questions, please ask. I'll move on to the point of why this question or why my solution maybe is a bit silly. If not, then Elina, can you please share the...
Sure. So yeah, Kevin is asking MongoDB versus Firestore, which one you prefer and why?
Good question, Kevin. Let's go to that through the next slide. So at first, I actually thought that this is a bit of a silly question. Who would like to save Mongo data in directly from a Flutter app? Because normally what you end up with is scenario number 3. You have your mobile app, you have some backend, and then you maybe use Mongo underneath as a database layer, and things go through GraphQL, gRPC.
Mongo probably use
REST.
several databases. So.
Yeah, Mongo probably being the one, or maybe the one you're trying to run away from to migrate to a faster database. Then there's the option that we just used in number 2. I had a Mongo running on my host computer, so it would have been the same thing to run it over the internet, let's say on Atlas or somewhere in a central service. So you connect to an IP address, and basically it's functional. There is authentication, there's encryption. So if you don't need any business logic, you could basically do that. Then there's actually a third option I just learned about, which is now option 1 here. I'm going in reverse order. Option 1 is actually that Mongo provides Mongo Mobile, which is a tiny embeddable Mongo that you can put on your mobile device, and you can actually make it sync with whatever huge replica set online. So you can have shared state kind of transparently without writing code.
A lot cluster of
yes, you can have a huge cluster of tiny Mongos integrated to a bigger cluster of not saying any of these, which one of these actually makes more sense, but I would say that I've actually built production apps with like approach number 3. So I think that's the most common one.
And the store, like, well, about Firebase, Firestore.
I would probably, regarding Flutter, I would maybe go with Firestore. The use cases are, I would say, maybe a bit different. Mongo being, documents mostly, but then again, you can use Firestore with that as well. Firestore is probably better supported with Flutter, and that's a Google product, and they're kind of, there's even a site. Yeah, there's even a separate site for Firebase, Firestore stuff.
And when you're using like Firestore or Firebase, you can leverage all the other services that they give you, so your development is even more faster. Like for example, like the auth, you can, if you're already using like Firestore, you can just use the Firebase authentication as well. So that saves you a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So maybe Firestore in this context. And the answer is data available? Is it possible to put in Mongo? Yes, it is.
Okay, Kevin is saying thank you at the chat. Any more questions? And thank you, Lauri, for the great demo and a profound answer.